Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fault Line podcast. This is a podcast from Calvary Worship Center, New West. I want to welcome you guys here. We're going to be having conversations on culture, conversations about faith, and the intersection on that. So, welcome. My name is Ken. I'm going to be your host today, and I am here with some able-bodied men of God.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Is God in your?
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere, man. That's it. Okay, that's good. That's great. So, before we get started, how about you guys? Let's do a little bit of an introduction. So, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit your name, a little bit about yourself.
My name is Emeka, one of the few Emekas in Calvary Worship, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's a good blend of culture. I think more and more we're seeing that infusion of culture even in our Christian lives. So it's nice to have this platform that we can discuss that, especially for people out there.
Yeah.
And have a seat at the table where these conversations are happening. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, one thing that you said there is to have a seat where we can have the conversations because people are going to hear it anyways.
Yeah.
It's just who they're going to hear it from and when they're going to hear it, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Emeka.
One of the many.
One of the many.
The greats.
One of the many.
All right.
Awesome. My name is Clement. I guess I'm happy to be here as well. I think
You guess? What you mean you guess, bro? What you mean? You ain't happy to be here?
I speak for the people who are a lot less creative, right? And a lot more, thinkers, a lot
Give
more
yourself some
design
credit,
oriented.
man.
No. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy to share another perspective. I work in engineering, so maybe you can draw from that a bit. But obviously, talking about faith and culture and identity and all that. So,
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
All right. Clem.
Wow.
Thank you.
The bar has been set.
Yes, I know.
You can raise
No
it.
pressure.
No. My name is Nana Kweku. It's also a pleasure to be here to also speak with like-minded people and get some insight and also share some perspective. I have a background in tech as well, and coming from the different experiences and the different exposure prior to the people I work with, it's nice to, sit with the table with young, great men and get some insight and take some knowledge back home as well.
Awesome.
Yes.
I need to assess my gray hairs to see if I'm still young. Maybe it's just a genetic thing. It's not.
No. You're good. You're good.
Yo, it's nice to have you guys. Thank you guys for being here. So let's jump right into this. So today we're going to be talking about identity. Okay, so what I'll do is I just did a very quick, brief definition of identity, and then we'll just use this as our jump off, just a straight Google. So what I quickly got was identity is the sum of the characteristics, nature, and meaning that define who a person or thing truly is. And then when he looks at a person specifically, it also comes back to that question of who am I?
Right.
One of those questions that just boggles everybody's mind at some point
deep.
in your life.
It's a deep question.
Who are you?
Yeah.
It's one of those questions that everybody approaches at some point in their lives. And, the reason why this issue of identity is very important, especially today, is because when you look around us, you look at, the tech world, even when you just look at the different generations, you look at our grandfathers, our fathers, and us, the way they approach life is very, very different. The way we approach life is very, very different. The way my kids are going to approach life is very, very different.
Right.
And it all comes down to the grounding of identity, So I guess starting from there, what is your definition of identity, or who would you say you are, based on that rough, loose definition of identity? So, Emeka, we'll start with you.
Wow.
So is this okay.
We're just rolling.
We're
Talk to us.
vibing.
Talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, my journey with identity actually, it's not a long one, but it's only recently probably say just before I moved
Yeah.
to Canada, there was a church I started worshiping in because I grew up Catholic, but loose Catholic. We're not too strict. We didn't have something on the corner, Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yeah.
We're not really a rosary praying, so it was not like that.
Yeah.
And my parents were very flexible with, trying a few churches. So a couple of times we go to Redeem and stuff. So it was only recently I started going to this church in Lekki, which is close to my house, but the pastor was very big on identity. It was, and I think very, very with the same energy that you kind of spoke with your introduction, like it's kind of the foundation. It really should be the foundation of your Christian walk with God, because from there you have these other branches kind of coming out.
Right.
But it's the source of what you believe, who you believe God to be to you. So he was very big on sending that message. So that's the way I kind of started my, being intentional about, okay, forget who I think I am. Who does God think I am?
Yeah.
Right? And it kind of started changing it was like a paradigm shift for me. And and then I started reading because the pastor was also he was very intentional about giving preachers, because he could tell a lot of people in the church were also coming from places where they were scarred.
Yeah.
And the scarring affected their own identity in themselves and also who they thought God saw them as. So there was a lot of unlearning. And the unlearning came from Bible passages, and what is God saying about you? Yeah. So I kind of held on to that, and it's been a journey. Even still on a journey, it's, some of it is also you just every morning saying it to yourself. Yeah. Because like you said, with social media, it's kind of like a tug of war.
Yeah.
The world is saying something that you're not enough, that you have to put makeup on, you have to, it's always showing you places where that you lack.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's waking up in the morning and no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm secure in my Father in heaven.
Yeah. That's great.
So yeah.
That's good.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. I think what makes yours stand out too for me right now, just hearing you speak, is your background, and then also transitioning from a Catholic background to more of a leaving that and then going into like the what's it called, the Protestant movement.
Yeah. Protestant
movement, and then seeing how that actually, that difference or that shift actually helped you. It sounds like, from what you're saying, it helped shape. You saw the difference in the context of identity based in the Catholic world, and then also in the Protestant church. So it's good to hear that. So thank you.
And that's my personal journey.
Yeah, and that's yours.
There are people still in Catholic church that have a firm understanding of their identity.
Yeah.
And, it might be a principle that works for them.
Yeah.
But it gets to a stage where you kind of have to decide, am I going to church for myself or am I going for my parents?
Right.
Yeah.
So you draw that line. And I had a very interesting conversation with my parents when that time came. But I think they ultimately get it, especially when you're old enough to make some certain decisions.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? When I was younger, I was going to church because you were like, okay, it's Sunday morning. It's time to go to church.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where, okay, I have to know
you're
God for
doing and why,
myself.
right.
Yeah.
Right? And not through my parents.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Clem, what about your journey?
I think when you were reading the definition, you said something pretty interesting about it being a sum of characteristics, or I might be paraphrasing.
Right.
And personally, when I think about identity, I think about it in that way because on one hand, I do believe there's the core identity of who you're made to be, who God made you to be. But then there's also the other things that come in, like, what your parents leave you with, the legacy, the friends you make, the people you encounter, how all that comes to form you.
Right.
And for me, when thinking back, I think as a second male child, growing up, a lot of my identity was fueled in what my older brother was doing.
Right.
Where he was going, the things he was doing, and how I could, okay, this is what I see, this is the way it's supposed to be done. I think it really hit me that I couldn't be like him is because he loves playing soccer and he's amazing at it. I've tried many times. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out.
Just
for me,
worked on the screen.
I think that was the point where I began to realize that we just like different things.
Right.
We're better at different things. Both my parents are accountants, and he's an accountant as well.
Oh.
So there was always that, okay, then maybe this is what we're supposed to do. It's just a family of accountants. We're supposed to go in that vein. This is what my identity is. But really taking the time to explore what my passions were and realizing that they were a little bit different, more into the sciences as opposed to into the maths.
Yeah.
I realized that I needed to be me for me, and I need to forge my own path. And I think that might be how people get into the thing of finding yourself.
Right.
Because you're like, I tried to do what the family was doing, but that's not what I'm called to. That's not what I'm called to do. So what is it that I need to do, and what do I... So, yeah, I do believe it's a sum of characteristics. But I think at the core, we're all made to do something unique, and finding that poses the challenge or poses the question that how do we get there? So that's the journey I'm on, and that's where we're going, yeah.
Okay, I want to come back. You said something very, very interesting, and I'm just writing it down because we're going to visit it in a bit. But thank you for sharing that. Mr. Nana, NK.
My God. Identity. I mean, my two brothers have really shared some extensive thoughts. Definitely, for me, I'm a first child, so there was not any, excuse me, anyone to like look up to and say that I was the trial and error. You have to do it and figure it out.
Right.
But I've come to also realize that, I mean, as Christians, fundamentally our identity is built and found in Christ. Yeah. But then again, there's also an intentional and unintentional choice and experience that we go through in life that kind of shapes to that identity that forms us. Right. Now, the real question that every now and then comes up is that, do these choices we make, eventually, do they bring us to the path that God has destined for us? So that's, for me, that's the biggest thing outside, okay, I work in tech, I do this, I serve here, I do that. Do all these choices shape, or is it going to be like the Israelites going around 40 years just to now get to the final thing, right? So that's the biggest thing for me, just, in as much as we go through the daily, experiences in life, do these things or these choices, like, we live in a society that there are rules and regulations.
Right.
And they impact us, whether we like it or yes. They impact us in different ways that, contribute to our well-being, our identity, who we are as individuals or as men. And so in the grand scheme of things, it's just looking at all those things and realizing that sometimes, even to a larger extent, some of these choices are out of our hands.
Right.
If you really think about it, some of these choices are out of our hands, where we have to wrestle with all these dynamics and all these politics and bureaucracy and all of that, just to kind of shape who we are as individuals. So identity is
it's multi-layered.
Yes,
multi-layered.
It's a very big concept.
One thing that you guys have said that has really resonated is, I guess this is the reason why we're talking about this, is identity. So the reason why I wanted us to talk about this is identity is so encapsulated in so many things. So there's identity as your original, whoever we're supposed to be originally. And then there's also another piece of identity that is around your experience, right? Yeah. Another piece of identity that is around the influence. Right. There's another piece of identity that comes out of the consequences of your actions. Right. Yeah. There's another identity. Now someone's like, there's another identity that is based off our desires. Yeah. I think, so there's all these...
It's identities from social pressures of being a man.
Even your parents.
Exactly.
You live in
parents.
You live in, your dad said, you have to be a doctor.
Yeah. I mean, you're almost an accountant.
Why did you
right? You have to be a... So you work in a certain, that is... I personally know someone that went into the sciences, did all of that, passed flying colors back in Ghana, only to say, okay, Dad, I've finished what you wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Now I want to go into human
do what I need
resource.
to do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
He went in and I said, you spent all these years. But for him, it took him a longer time to just come back to the point of realizing this is not for me.
not what I
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah. Now that you said that, I think I've said this story a lot at New West, at Calvary New West, working with a physician who, I believe it was a cardiologist from many years ago, a cardiologist, and, after several years, just giving up his license and just saying, I'm going to go start a restaurant.
Wow.
And he loved cooking.
A whole cardiologist.
It's a lot of school went into that.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it speaks again to the pressures of
Right.
it, right? And so one question that I actually have here to start this off is, when in each of your lives, or even people that we know, when do you think that pressure to start or discover your identity, when does it start? Is it something that has always been there? Is it something that, like you said, there's an encounter that pushes everybody to say, hey, I really need to find out who I am. Like, this is not who I am. Like, is there an encounter? When does it start? Does it start when we're babies? Just in your experience. Clem, do you want to start?
Sure.
Thank you, Jesus.
I guess one thing is that I would say that in this day and age, especially as the world develops, I think it's a lot more difficult. Because when I think about it, and like you talked about the times of our grandparents and older, I feel like the options were a lot less limited,
Yeah.
right? If you're coming from a family of farmers, you're most likely to go into that. There are a lot less options, but now you've got social media, you've got podcasters,
Yes.
you've got people in tech, you've got, with development, you need more people to build more things. So the options start to get wider, and the more the options are, the more
The choice is difficult.
glaring it looks
Yes.
to find a place to fit it. And to answer your question, I feel like that, personally, I think the pressure comes, at least for a man, is when you move out of your father's house. Maybe you're going to university, or even going to boarding school.
Right.
I went to boarding school back in high school, and I think that's where it starts to form. Because at that point, you're no longer fully under their covering, and you need to figure out some things for yourself.
Right.
And that's when you may make some bad choices, you make some good choices, and learn to live with those consequences. So I would say that's when the pressure starts, and more so when your consequences affect you directly, or when your choices, affect you directly. You make a bad choice, and it's like, okay, now I don't have money because I spent it on, say, an investment that didn't pan out. But now
Yes.
you have to deal with it.
Yes.
How do I learn from this? How do I do better? So I think that's when those pressures start to mount up, and that's when you just sit down and try to figure out, where am I actually going from here? What do I do? What steps do I take? Yeah.
Right. That's good. So the decisions that you make outside the covering of safety,
Yeah.
and dealing with the consequences, knowing that you are now being accountable for the actions that you have made. Wow.
Such a pastoral way to put it. Like, I love it.
You have to use it up.
Yeah, no, yes, exactly that.
You see,
Yeah.
this is what I go through, guys. Pray for me. Just pray for me. What else really do, though?
The funny thing is, I might say it depends on how you grew up. Now, if you grew up in a home where your parents were relatively strict, you build this innate decision, I can't wait to leave the house.
Right.
Right.
And so, most often than not, you don't actually take note of, okay, these are the things I got to learn, or these are the things I got to figure out. Rather, the focus becomes, when I leave the house, I can make all the decisions I can make. I can go wherever. I can come home whenever. I can do whatever. And then you also have the people that grew up in a home where it's relatively flexible. Parents
Right.
are like, hey, by all means, make your mistakes, but we are here to kind of shape and guide you. And you find that the people that also grew up in that context also, find or start to build that identity and all of that slightly differently, because
Yes.
there's always, I don't want to say there's always a backup,
Right.
but there's always
a
that
fail-safe.
there's a
Yeah.
better
There's a
safety net
safety
in
net.
that context, because I mean, you have the freedom, but you also know that mom and dad or my family is here if things go sideways.
Yeah. Right.
So you find that sometimes those people naturally go into the family business or they go into things and they always have the backing and the support of their family. Not to say that the people that move out from stricter homes whatsoever don't have it, but the weight of it is very different.
Right. So having that safety. So then having that safety net is what you're saying.
So that safety is also very dependent.
Yeah.
Because that safety can still help people still come out and be on top of whatever they are meant to be.
Yeah.
But they're also people. So for me, it also depends on how they grew up.
Right.
Because there are people that had that safety and didn't make much of it.
Yeah.
So what do you think that was about, though? I think that's just hearing you. So obviously there's people who say dad is a mega billionaire, owns a big company, and he has like 5 kids. You know, there'll be obviously maybe a few of those kids would fall into that category of I want to stay in the safety net, and you know, I want to do what dad and mom are saying, or maybe I might venture out a little bit, but you know, 80% of my eggs are still in this basket with dad and mom, just in case things go off. Now, there's always that we want to say the person is the rebellious person, you know, like dad, I don't care about your billions, I want to live on the streets, and
the prodigal son.
The prodigal son.
My God.
So is he prodigal because there is something else he's dealing with, or is he prodigal because you know he just wants to be somebody different? He's struggling with his identity, and his identity is not in this mega $1 billion whatever. Like, why is that? Why is there a difference there? Thank you for listening to The Fault Line, a podcast from Calvary Worship Center New West. If this conversation encouraged you and blessed you, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, if you have questions or topics that you would like us to discuss, send us an email at podcast@calvaryonline.ca. That's podcast@calvaryonline.ca. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Fault Line.